What is it about the new 2026 Ferrari engine that left Leclerc speechless and Hamilton filming in amazement? What exactly did you see in that first thruster start that made you react with such emotion? Could this be the key that will return Ferrari to the top of Formula One? Stay, because what you are about to discover is one of the boldest technical bets ever made in Maranello, and it could change everything. The silence in Maranello's main workshop was almost ceremonial. Technicians, engineers, executives, and the two men who will lead the future of Ferrari were present, gathered around the car of the future. The moment they had been waiting for more than 2 years was seconds away from happening. A button was pressed. The initial hum was followed by the deep, metallic roar of the new 2026 engine. What happened in the next few seconds was not a performance, it was not marketing. It was genuine. Charles Leclerc, with his hands resting on his hips, did not take his eyes off the car. His expression changed in milliseconds. First an analytical look, then a slight raise of his eyebrows, and finally a smile that escaped him, almost in disbelief. He, who had had to endure a second half of 2025 struggling in the middle of the grid, knew what he was hearing. That wasn't just any engine. It was different. It sounded clean, stable, powerful. But above all, it conveyed something that Ferrari had not had in years: technical confidence. Lewis Hamilton, at his side, broke the implicit protocol. He took out his mobile phone and started recording. It was not a simple emotional reaction. It was personal validation of all the sacrifice he had made when leaving Mercedes. His eyes were fixed on the car, but his body remained motionless, as if he did not want to lose even a millisecond of that moment. As the engine reached its maximum speed and then stopped on a low note, the silence returned, only to be broken by a round of spontaneous applause among the engineers. But more importantly, Hamilton didn't immediately applaud. He looked at the video he had just recorded and nodded. That gesture said everything that cannot be verbalized. What both pilots witnessed was not simply the firing of a propellant. It was the emotional closure of a cycle of frustrations, strategic defeats, and cars that were not up to his talent. But above all, it was the beginning of a new stage. Because when a driver like Hamilton, who has heard more than a dozen engines start for the first time in his career, stops everything to record that moment, you know there's something special. And when Leclerc, who has grown up within the Ferrari ecosystem, drops his emotional guard, then you understand that there is something in that engine that cannot be measured in horsepower. That scene was not recorded for the cameras. It was an internal moment designed for them, for the team, for the soul of Ferrari. And it was precisely at that moment where everyone understood that the radical bet they had made could really mark a new era. Because if you manage to excite your drivers with a test bench, what may happen on the track will simply be the continuation of a conviction that is already installed in the heart of the team. To understand the real impact of Ferrari's new engine on its drivers, you have to go back several months and explore the emotional dimension of what Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc experienced during 2025. It was a season that pushed them to the psychological limits, both on and off the track. Hamilton arrived at Maranello expecting to rewrite his legacy in a new environment. The 7-time world champion was looking for more than a final competitive stage. He was looking for a purpose. But what he found in his first races was an outdated car, frozen in its development, without visible evolution and without answers. Ferrari had opted to completely abandon the 2025 project in favor of building the SF26, which meant Hamilton was literally racing in a car in a state of technical abandonment. Hamilton's frustration was not simply a competitive distaste. It was existential. For a driver used to being in the fight for victories and championships, seeing himself eliminated in Q1 in 3 consecutive classifications was devastating. In public, his body language spoke for itself. Slumped shoulders, short answers, staring into space. But privately, something changed. Hamilton decided not to sink. He began attending technical meetings, became involved in Project 678 data analysis, and actively participated in the decision-making process. He asked, he challenged, he proposed. Instead of resigning, he became an emotional driving force for the team. That attitude surprised even the most senior engineers. They did not expect to see Hamilton in so many internal sessions, nor so much time in the simulator. It was there, in that closed environment, where he began to see the first spark of what Ferrari was building. Especially when the idea of steel cylinder heads was presented to him. At first, he considered it a miscalculation. Why take a chance with a heavier alloy in such a sensitive part of the engine? But when he tested the new engine's heat maps, he understood. The thermal stability was impressive, higher combustion efficiency, and the reliability surprising. That day, Hamilton exchanged his skepticism for conviction. Charles Leclerc lived a different but equally profound process. Unlike Hamilton, Leclerc had already survived Ferrari's emotional swings for years. I knew what it was like to see a project die mid-season. But never before had he felt such intentional abandonment as that of 2025. Not only was his car not evolving, it was getting worse. In some races, the difference with McLaren was so grotesque that even with a perfect lap he could not fight for the podium. And yet, Leclerc also understood that they were betting everything on a single number in roulette, the SF26. But the most difficult thing for Leclerc was not accepting the sacrifice. It was to maintain motivation. Each race pushed him further to the emotional limit. In Qatar, after a particularly frustrating weekend, his statements were clear. This has to be worth it. We are not here to settle. And that statement was not accidental. It was the reflection of a driver who had given everything to the team and who demanded an equivalent response from the technical department. The transformation was evident. By the time the day of the first ignition arrived, both pilots were no longer skeptical. They were believers. But what they saw that day exceeded even their expectations. It wasn't just an engine. It was the tangible symbol that all the suffering, every failed run, every frustrating session, had a purpose. And that mutual conviction, that of a team that opted for extreme innovation and that of two drivers who risked everything for a better future, is the basis on which everything that Ferrari hopes to achieve in 2026 is built. Because when your drivers not only drive but believe in the project, that is when engineering becomes ideology. And there, at that exact point, the real threat begins. Ferrari's true revolution for 2026 is not in its bodywork or its suspension. It's at the heart of the car, its engine. And more specifically, in a critical and often underestimated part of it, but vital for the thermal, structural and energy performance of the assembly, the cylinder head. In a completely unexpected turn, Ferrari has decided to abandon aluminum, which has been the standard in Formula One for decades, and opt for a steel alloy. It's not just a choice of material. It is a philosophical statement. A break from what is taken for granted in high-performance engineering. During the first months of the project, this decision was made with an extreme level of caution. In fact, Ferrari maintained two different development programs in parallel. One with aluminum cylinder heads, the traditional and safe approach, and another with steel cylinder heads, the absolute risk. It wasn't until after months of structural, thermal, and dynamic validation that the team decided to lean all its strength toward the most radical option. And they did it with the technical support of AVL, one of the most sophisticated engineering houses in the world in the development of hybrid systems. The collaboration was decisive. But why can this election change the game? In today's F1, engines must operate at very high pressures within the combustion chamber, especially now that the 2026 regulations will require 100% sustainable fuels and eliminate the MGUH system. Without the MGUH to manage exhaust heat, engine thermal management becomes exponentially more complex. And that is where steel has its first great advantage, its superior thermal insulation capacity compared to aluminum. This allows more heat to be retained within the combustion chamber for longer, which directly translates into more efficient combustion with less energy loss due to heat transfer. Ferrari knows it. And that's why Project 678, code name for the SF26, is not limited to the engine. Since Ferrari Vasseur made the radical decision to stop development of the SF25, the entire wind tunnel, simulation benches, and test schedule were reoriented toward a single goal, creating a car designed from the ground up to run with this revolutionary engine. Every inch of the car was designed around that power unit. Every aerodynamic decision, every mass distribution, every cooling system. There are no commitments, just absolute integration. The Leclerc-Hamilton duo is also one of the most dangerous in the paddock. One represents youth, loyalty, the emotional connection with Ferrari. The other, experience, the winning vision, and the ability to demand maximum performance from the team in each area. Together, and with a car to match, they could become the most powerful alliance of the new era. Let me know in the comments what you think about all this.